I thought I would start with a song this morning. When I look into your eyes, I see your soul shining back at me. When your heart is next to mine, I feel at peace. I lose all track of time. When we share our love, it's so easy to see the face of God smiling back at me. When you look into my eyes, I hope you see the love that's here in me. Far too long I hid that inner part of me, afraid of what you'd see. But when I see you, letting love shine through, something deep in me starts shining too. Something in your face reveals the grace, and all I see, yes, all I see, all I can see is the face of God. This morning, I'm running over to this microphone. Thank you. This morning, I'm doing this with a good friend of mine, Conra Faor, who's the minister who runs the Brigade of Light group here in Portland, which is another awesome spiritual center. They meet on Sunday mornings too, usually at 11 o'clock. So some of them are here this morning instead of being over there because they're doing the service with us this morning. So welcome here. Thank you for coming. It's interesting. I'm going to do just a few minutes of sharing, and then Conra's going to come up and share, and you'll get to hear her, because a lot of you have never met Conra before. And she's also going to be doing the meditation with us this morning. So I'm always interested, probably because I have a theater background, but I'm always interested in what happens behind the scenes, because actually more interesting stuff happens behind the scenes than on stage. And yeah, exactly. It's true. And so Conra and Glenda, before Glenda left, and God bless her on her trip and her training and her experiences, we met and had dinner and talked about doing this. And when Glenda had first said to me, and I don't know if you know this part of the story, so I'm about to get Glenda in trouble maybe, I don't know. Sorry if I do. But Glenda called me up and said, "Yikes! I thought I was flying out on Monday. I'm flying out on Sunday. Can you do the service?" And I said, "No. I'm already scheduled to work with the brigade that morning." And she went, "Oh, okay." So this idea came forward of, well, why don't we just do it together? Why don't we do the service together? And Glenda, being Glenda, was like all excited about that. This is a great idea. This is Unity Spiritual Center, so let's do that. Let's start doing more things like that. So this is the first experiment in kind of sharing things like this. And the talk that we came up with, the title was called "As I Live, So I Teach," which Conra's going to be sharing more about. So I wanted to share a couple of things that came to me along those lines. When Glenda's up here, or I'm up here, or anybody is presenting up here, or we're teaching a workshop or a class, there's a certain dynamic that's present because the intentionality is we're sharing or ministering or teaching whatever it is that we're doing. And you, whoever attends, is there coming with the student mentality of receiving and learning and sharing. And that's an awesome thing that we do together. But there's two components to that I think sometimes people don't pay attention to enough, maybe. And one of them is that the only thing you can actually teach with any authority is what you're living. You can teach anything you believe, that's just fine. You can speculate all you want about whatever you want, and it may be mentally fascinating, but it will carry no spiritual authority with it if it's not the way you live. If it's not your beingness, if it's not your consciousness, it's not going to carry any authority in anybody else's consciousness. It won't be genuine, it won't be real. It'll be a bunch of nice words or a bunch of interesting concepts. And then once you have maybe mental interest in exploring those ideas, you go away and you really have nothing. There's no spiritual food there. There's nothing that sustains you in the ups and downs of your real life. It's just an interesting thing to play with mentally. Real teaching comes from the authority of living what you're talking about. And that's the people that make an impact when they share, is people who know what they're talking about because they are living what they're talking about. Does not mean that they're living it perfectly or have it all figured out, but if they do it 100% right. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with whether they're really living what they're sharing or not. And if they are, it has a lot of substance to it. That's part one. And the other part is, those of you who are not ministers, not teachers, not in a position where you'll ever stand on a stage like this, or lead a class or a workshop, and I know many of you do, but those of you that don't, every day that you're living in your life in the world, in your family, in your job, in your neighborhood, you are teaching the whole time you're living. And you're also learning the whole time you're living. We kind of get that. We kind of get that we're learning things in our life. But we don't as often get those who aren't in teacher or leadership roles. You're teaching all the time. You're teaching everybody all the time. Jan is sitting in the front row here, and our platform person today. Jan, as you know, works with dogs. As you probably know, if you haven't figured out already, I love dogs. And so I talk about dogs a lot. According to my wife, I talk about dogs probably way too much. But some of us, that's not too much. So those of you who aren't animal lovers, you're stuck with me talking about dogs again. But my dog, who we lost this year, was a very well-trained dog, communicated with me really well, worked with me really well. And as Jan's dogs do her and the dogs that she trains. And I had a friend one time who had a dog, but it was a very unruly dog, not an aggressive dog, just ill-mannered dog. And 99% of ill-mannered dogs are the people, not the dog, but truthful. But in any case, they came to me and they said, so how long, this was when Simca was about 1.5 years old maybe, and they said, how long did it take you to train Simca? And I said, I am still training Simca, and he's training me. Every time we interact, he's training me how he wants to behave, how he wants to interact with me, and I'm training him how I want to behave and interact with him. And we all do that for each other. We train people how to treat us. We train people what's okay and how we allow them to treat us. We train people how we want to treat them and whether we're going to pay attention to their boundaries and their sensitivities and their needs or whether we're not. We teach each other all the time things. So it's an ongoing process. And whatever you're doing in your life, somebody's watching, even if it's just God. Somebody's watching. And there are people, when I worked many, many years ago, I worked in the banking industry. And this one particular bank I worked in, I had a small office on a floor that had a lot of people that did different things. And there was a gal, a receptionist at the entry level, at the entry door to this section of the bank, who greeted everybody who came in and directed them to the proper people. And I would see her every morning and say hello to her, and I would say goodbye to her as I was leaving every night. That was the entire bulk of our relationship. And when I got transferred and got promoted and went to a different branch and was leaving, the last day I was there, I was saying goodbye and said, you know, I'm going so-and-so, and she started crying. And I thought something had happened to her or her family, and I said, oh, what's wrong? And she said, well, you're leaving. And I said, yeah. And she said, it's going to be very different here without you. I'm really going to miss you. And I had hardly any interaction with her. If you had said to me, what effect do you think you have on the receptionist at the department? I'd have said, none. But that would have been wrong. There was something about me, whatever that was at the time, that to her was very comforting and reassuring. She felt like she was heard, like she was seen, like she was somebody, like she mattered to somebody. Just because I took a couple minutes in the morning instead of walking by her to say, hey, Gita, how are you this morning? What's going on? And talk to her for a second. It was really simple. It was just common courtesy, basically. But common courtesy isn't so common anymore. And neither is caring about people. We like to think it is, because those of us in the spiritual community, as we reach out and we gather more spiritual people in our lives, and we participate in more spiritual communities, we tend to think the world's getting really nicer. Step outside those communities, it doesn't look like that at all. And people actually caring about somebody else, listening to somebody else, paying attention to somebody else is not a common occurrence anymore. Customer service people giving actual customer service isn't common anymore. It's a different kind of thing. So my point is, whether it's your neighbor, or whether it's somebody in your family, or whether it's somebody sitting next to you in your office, or a receptionist you hardly know, or whether it's the grocery store clerk, or the bank teller, or all these invisible people you see every day that don't matter to you, they matter to somebody. And they're souls, just like you, struggling through this existence, trying to figure it out, just like you. So the way we live, the attitudes that we carry, the energy that we project, has an effect on people. We're always teaching the world around us, always. All of us, whether we're in a leadership role or not, that's irrelevant. And the last piece of that is, you can project a phony image. You can pretend to be something you're not. You can pretend to be happy when you're sad. You can pretend to be fine when you feel broken inside. You can pretend to know everything when you in fact are clueless. You can pretend a lot of things, but what you actually radiate is your consciousness. Where you actually are in your consciousness. That's what really radiates you. You can't stop that. You're not trying to project that. That's the way life works. Being is radiant. And wherever you are, that's what you're radiating. So people, whether they consciously pick it up or whether they unconsciously pick it up, they get that. They get that. Back to dogs. If somebody can't stand dogs and wishes you would get your dog away from me, and they walk in and say, hi, nice doggy, I really like dogs, the dog immediately knows, no you don't. They get that right away. So we do too, actually, if we pay attention. They just pay attention, and we sometimes don't. And they look. When they look and actually see. They look at Jan's face and see. She's happy, she's sad, she wants me to do something, she likes what I did, she doesn't like what I did. They look and see. We look and pay no attention. So one of the things about living and what you teach and teaching what you live is paying attention. Pay attention to what's really going on in your life. Because the other thing that's happening all the time with teaching is spirit or God or the divine, however you refer to this, it's always teaching you. Everything you have in life is an opportunity to learn something. The hard stuff, the good stuff, the easy stuff, the awful stuff, it's all an opportunity to learn something. So here, one of the things that's remarkable, I think, about what's happening now in the church here is that Glenda is not only interested in teaching, she's interested in learning. She's a very dynamic, open, enthusiastic person, and that's going to affect the energy of people. So when you come to church, this is my last piece and then I'm going to sit down and I'm going to share. But when you come to church, you can come in all different ways. We all can. You know, when you come and sit there on Sunday morning, or come to a workshop or a class, whatever those are, or come to a meditation group, when you come there, you can come just to sit. It's like, okay, do something impressive, you know, and have this attitude of the person up here is supposed to like really zing you and like get us, okay, I'm really bummed out, depressed, and I have no energy, fix me. You know, you can come to church with that attitude. Or you can come to church with, this is stupid, my wife made me come, or my husband made me come, and I don't know what they're talking about, it doesn't make any sense to me anyway, who cares? I want to get home and watch the game. You can come with that attitude. Or you can come with the attitude of, I'm going to be presenting something here today. I'm going to be sharing my love. I'm going to be sharing my wisdom. I'm going to be giving people an opportunity to share their wisdom and their love with me. I'm going to invite them to be who they are when they're talking to me. I'm going to set up a safe space where they can do that. I'm going to come to church like that. And whatever is being presented up here, I'm going to get behind that energetically and support that as fully as I can. Because I want to participate in this community. I don't want to just take from it. I want to participate in this community. I want to give something to it. Whether it's your time volunteering or your money when we do the offering, whether it's just your attention, or whether it's being more directly involved in some way. Whatever you physically do is not actually so important to the vitality of this church or any church as is, are you participating in the life of the church, or are you just showing up and then leaving when the service is over? They're two very different ways to engage the church. So all of us are in fact teaching what we live, whether we know it or not, whether we intend to or not. And so I'm really happy that Glenda gave us this chance. I'm really happy you get a chance to listen to Conra. And I've told Conra for ages, maybe it won't be your experience, maybe it will, but when she does guided meditations, I like, you just got to put these on tape. I love her meditations. So now you have to live up to that when you come here, okay? So anyway, I would like you to be very participatory and welcome my good friend, Conra Faor.
So I'm sitting there listening to everything Stephen has to say, and I'm going, what's left? I mean, that's everything. I mean, we are in every moment of our life teaching what we believe, sharing all that we are. And sometimes when I look back on my life, I'm like, not really proud of some of the things I've shared or the spaces I've been in. And so, just to kind of give you a little help in being who you really are and being all that you feel inside. Because sometimes we think that we're expressing something and we're not, because we have all these old tapes from when we were children and the kids laughed at us in kindergarten, or we didn't say something right and everybody ridiculed us. So we all have those things rolling around inside of us that really keep us from freely expressing who we are, to being the greatest teachers that we can be. So one of the things that I have found, and I'll share with you, is, so I went to all these counseling things and all these self-help groups to like really build myself up and get myself back in a good space. And that was a lot of years of work. And in the end, I realized I made a itty bit of progress, but all that stuff was still there. And so I kind of was contemplating that and going, there's got to be some easier way than all this money and counseling and et cetera, et cetera. And finally I realized, one of those aha moments when God goes, hey, wake up. And I realized, okay, there's me over here in this human mind, body, emotions, and there's God over here with all the power and the glory. Who's going to be more effective? Yeah. So finally I said, okay, I need to meet God where God is. Instead of trying to get all of this stuff out and realign myself to what I want to be, I want to be what God created me to be. And each of you can be what God created you to be. Because if you look around the room, no one looks the same. Because none of us are. So how do we get to that space of being all that God created us to be, and really being that teacher that makes a huge difference just being present? I just get up every morning and I go, God, I want you to join me this day in everything that I do, and I promise I'll stay open to you. And sometimes that's a little surprising. Because yesterday, I decided it was too hot in the afternoon to work in the garden, so I'm going to go to the grocery store, and then when it's cooler at night, I'll go out in the garden. So I'm in the grocery store, and I'm in the produce section, and I'm trying to decide on, how do I know if the pineapple's ripe? And all of a sudden, I looked up and I saw all these people, old people, young people, very exuberant people, very shy people, people who looked sick, people who looked well. And I realized every one of them was facing a challenge. Whether they looked healthy, whether they looked sick, they all were facing a challenge. And what was miraculous was that they were each in their own way finding the strength and the insight to handle it magnificently. And I was so moved inside that my eyes actually started to water, because I realized how true that was, and that we were all in this together. And as each one of us made a stride, it helped everybody else make a stride. And it was the most amazing moment. And then the rest of my journey through the grocery store was even more amazing, because people stopped and said hi and started chatting, and it was like, where did that come from? And it came because I changed my view of how I seen all of them all of a sudden. It was amazing. So if we can align ourselves every day with God early in the morning and keep reminding ourselves that God is constantly reaching out to all of us to help us, to remove those obstacles, to enlighten us, to be the best that He created us to be, then we're working with Him, instead of trying to struggle through all this consciousness on our own. And God gives us those moments. He gives us those insights, and they change us. And we become more radiant teachers, more awesome teachers, filling the world with the love that's just filled us. So being a teacher is who you are. Being a magnificent soul is who you are. Getting to the point where you live that and believe that every day, we get that by aligning ourselves with God every day. And then truly we can change the world outside of our circles, in everyone we meet, in the places we were, in the grocery store, wherever we are. We can teach the world that love truly is the answer to everything, and a blessing for everything. So with that thought in mind, if you'll close your eyes and just kind of feel into your body for a little bit. Do you have some tension somewhere? Take a deep breath right into that tension. Pick it up and breathe it out. And just keep doing that until you begin to feel your body truly relaxing. This is your natural state of being. And just relax. Take a moment and focus your attention in that area known as the seat of the soul. This is the place where God comes to meet you, to commune with you. So just be aware. And sometimes we need to remind the mind that in this place, it is only the observer. So just be quiet and aware in this space, and know that God is reaching out to you. It may be a vision, it may be a sound, it may be a color that elicits an emotion. It could be the combination of all of them. For God's communication with you is as unique as you are. So just take a moment and say to God, God, I open myself up to you to spend my time with you and to be with you. For you are the most important thing in all my world. And as we commune right now, I ask you to be with me all the moments of my day, that I walk in union with you, ever feeling your presence, ever knowing your love for me, receiving your guidance and following it through. This, Lord God, is the joy of my life. So just take a few moments